User journeys are an absolutely wonderful way to start mapping out what your users, clients, leads, employees are going to be doing through whatever experience you want to take them through. Now, before we get started in today's Morning for Visionaries, which, as you can guess, is all about user journeys and at least User Journeys 101, the big thing to know is that you can focus on a very, very specific user journey for a very specific client avatar, user profile, whatever you want to call it. Or you can go with an overarching user experience you want people to go through, or something in the middle. There's no wrong way. The important parts are to start crafting the experience you want people to have in your business through your website, through your social media, through walking in your door and planning these things out. So, starting with today's Morning for Visionaries, today is just User Journeys 101. I want to help you understand what a user journey is, why you should do it, and give you an example of what one is. So, what is a user journey? If you look online on Google, you'll find a whole lot of probably overly complicated graphs, charts, infographics about user journeys. Usually they have some arrows pointing, wibbling, and wobbling through. The user journey is going to go through like this, and they're going to do this, and this. Sure, that is one way. What we'd like to teach, starting out, the user journey is simply the path and the steps a user is going to take, how they're going to enter this path, this user experience, what are the simple steps they're going to do there, what are they going to think there, and what we want them to exit this user experience with, have done, have experienced, have felt, or being felt and having going forward. That sounds overly complicated, but it's as easy as what they do going in, what they're doing inside, and then what they do at the end / afterwards. Maybe technically that's 4, depending how you want to break it up. But starting out, we're keeping it easy. Intro, middle, outro. Things like that. So it's just the process, the steps, the experiences, the things put together in one set that you want people to have when they go through your lead process, when they go into your website, when they buy something from you, or even when they're going through your store trying to purchase widget ABC. Now, this again applies to almost everything and anything you can do in your business, from teammates, employees, vendors, contractors, venture capitalists, whatever it may be. It can apply to, actually it does apply to anything and everything. And I really mean that. Because take Disney as an example. If you go to Disney World or any one of their properties, every single thing, or at least pretty much every single thing you'll ever possibly do, can think, can experience, is very fully and extremely well planned out with many contingencies. We, here in the real world of things, we have limited budgets, limited time, so we can't plan out anything and everything. That's true. But we can start planning small things and start planning out, for example, and the example I love to take people through initially is the lead onboarding process. You might think, well, that's sales, and that's the lead onboarding process. That's not a user journey. It is a user journey. Because we want people to have a very specific user experience when going through our brand, so they can have a good experience. They can eventually buy from us. Hopefully they buy from us sooner rather than later, and can give us a decent amount of money while doing so, and be happy that they have done so. Preferably, this is of course about solving some financial issue or something that will get them a lot of money. And so that's a little caveat there. For us, we've planned out a lot of our experiences to help, of course, maximize our sales by giving people a good experience, focusing on getting them a return on their investment. That's us. Doesn't have to be you. We could be talking about just how they walk through the door just so it feels nice. They can be simple. So, very simple, and here's the practical example with lead onboarding. How are they going to come in to the lead onboarding process, the user experience, right? So for us, that is, they can give us a call, they can email us, they can contact us on our social media, or they can use one of our contact forms. Those are the general ways. There's a few others, but in general, that's kind of it. From there, the real step number 1 is we always guide everybody to our start process form. Our start project form, I should say, is a very simple questionnaire that sets expectations about what they can expect, what will happen. We're keeping it positive in our experience, and then telling them exactly what's going to happen next. So page 1 is setting expectations. Page 2 is the actual form. Page 3 is a thank you page that tells them, hey, thanks for filling out the form. Your next step after this is to schedule a call. And they schedule the call or not. If they don't schedule a call, there's a user experience path for that. But if they do schedule a call, then we send them a pre-call, a little email note. We send them a personalized thank you message. And from there, then we have the call and so on and so forth, the experience goes. So just the user experience of our lead onboarding is they come in a few various ways. They fill out the form, which is perfectly crafted. And we have, and I'll get to what we track and why we have it set up the way we do in just a minute. From there, then they go to step 2, which is the thank you page, and then step 3, the scheduling. And then 4, the out, is we have the call and so on and so forth, right? That's our process. Now you're thinking, well, okay, so that's just steps. It's not much of a user journey. It doesn't seem to be useful. Well, just planning these things out, by the way, that in and of itself is already a pretty darn useful thing because you want to give people a very similar high-quality experience, and you can't give people a consistent good quality experience if you don't know what that experience is supposed to be. So just by planning out the steps, you're already doing yourself a very, very big favor and hopefully improving the user experience from there. Now, for each step, you can write out a little graph, and I probably should have doodled this for you, and I'm sorry I didn't. But for each step of this user journey, you can start tracking things of what you will be doing at this step, what they will be doing, what you will be feeling, what they'll be feeling, who is responsible for this step, or which team, or even which team and who within that team. And then what should they be doing to proceed to the next step. You can track those things, or a whole heck of a lot more things, or a few things. There's a lot of data points you can track, and you're thinking, okay, whoa, that's going to be a lot of data that I don't track. I don't care about that yet. And you're right. You don't have to track much of this data, although I would recommend having at least a few basic pieces of information in there to help you make these steps and actionable pieces of really just a better experience. First and foremost is, what do you want the person to do in this step? Very specifically. 2, what do you want them to feel in this step? Or what are they feeling already going into the step? So you can kind of split that up, what they're feeling going into the step, what they're feeling going out. You can split it up. I keep it simple, especially starting out. What do you simply want them to feel at this step? Step 3, or I guess the third part, and the easiest part is, who is responsible for this step on your team? At that point, just by having those, you'll know what you want them to do, generally how they're feeling, who is responsible, be it you, your spouse, a copywriter, your web developer, et cetera, right? Whoever it might be, you know who's basically responsible, what they're supposed to be experiencing through this thing. So then you have this little plan for each of these steps. You have these data points, things you want to track, or things that are supposed to happen. And then you start building upon that. Be it you're just planning this one user journey, or you create this idea for everything, from lead onboarding to project onboarding to sales to somebody walking into the store, through talking to employees about benefits, to creating a new team within your company to help them grow, to having that initial team meeting on how to communicate with people. Whatever it might be, you can have a user journey for everything. Do you have to fully plan out everything? No, you don't. But when possible, when you can plan some of these things out and have some data points, you can start structuring these things because you know what you should be aiming for. You'll have tangible goals, you have tangible things you should be doing, and you'll have the strategy and the plan and the tactics you need to make these experiences much better simply because you've written them out and started planning them. Now, before we sign off for today, one of the big things that I love doing in these things, and no, don't worry, this is not a sales pitch, is that I love data. I love having the data points and a whole bunch of these things per user experience step, because then I can start tracking what's working, what isn't working. Just like you should probably be tracking your sales calls, your lead numbers, your retention numbers, whatever it might be. Basically getting your ROI on your numbers, how much it costs me to do this sale, right? There's that. You can be doing such things with your lead, shall I say, the user experience project, the user experience flows, paths, whatever you want to call them, the journeys, because then you start getting more data on what's working, what isn't working. If you're saying that in step number 3, the user should be feeling very happy and they should feel like they've been extremely helped, but they're not. Maybe you know something's wrong there. Maybe going into there, the whole setup is incredibly wrong. Or you might say, John Smith is responsible for step 5, but we never see him following up with these things. Whatever it might be. You start getting some data, so you start knowing eventually at what points are things working or not working, and you can start tweaking from there. And I love data. Do you have to be perfect about this? Again, no. But you can start getting a sense of what's working at what step, because you know what those steps are and what should be done at those steps to make this an optimal experience. So that's it for today's Morning for Visionaries. A quick overview of user journeys and an example of one. If you have your own example of what a good user journey is, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your ideas of your journeys and how you make them awesome. So here's Peter signing off. See you next time. Bye.